All right, let's connect two worlds you've probably never thought of putting together: the crazy pressure of college applications and the incredibly complex future of artificial intelligence. Now, I know it sounds like a weird mashup, but stick with me, because the hilarious, sometimes cringeworthy mistakes students make trying to get into school, they actually hold some really powerful lessons for how we should be building our most advanced technology. Think about it. On one hand, you've got a student making a super high-stakes decision about their own future. On the other, you have a team deploying an AI that could literally shape everyone's future. Both are all about making critical judgments where, the consequences of getting it wrong are massive, just on completely different scales. They're both really exercises in managing risk. So, to really get a handle on risk at a global scale, let's start with risk at a very, very human scale. We're going to look at some of the most spectacularly bad college applications ever sent, because these failures of judgment, oh man, they're incredibly revealing. I mean, you kind of have to laugh, right? This is just a complete and total failure of self-awareness. He probably thought he was showing off how resourceful he was, but he just completely misjudged what an admissions committee is looking for. They want integrity, honesty, a trustworthy foundation. It's just a basic flawed judgment about his audience and his goal. Now, this one's really interesting. It shows how a single, simple error can just completely torpedo your message and your credibility. One misplaced letter changes the whole story from a charming memory into something, well, kind of alarming. It really shows how even tiny mistakes can have a huge impact on how a system or, a person is perceived. And this one is a brilliant illustration of failing to understand context. What might be a clever, memorable gimmick in one situation is just bizarre and totally inappropriate in another. The student completely, as they say, misread the room. And this lack of contextual awareness is a flaw we see over and over again, both in human decisions and in major AI failures. So here's the crucial point. If one person's bad judgment leads to a rejection letter, what happens when those exact same biases, those same blind spots, those same contextual errors get built into systems that affect millions of lives? See, an AI system doesn't know it's making a terrible joke or misreading the room. It just executes its flawed logic at a scale we can barely even imagine. Okay, so the goal then is to build what's called trustworthy AI. It's a concept that tries to embed good judgment right into the technology itself. This definition here from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, it isn't just a wish list. Nope. It's a blueprint for building systems that actually avoid the kinds of epic fails we just looked at. And just look at this diagram. These aren't just a bunch of technical buzzwords. These are the characteristics we absolutely need to see in AI systems for us to be able to rely on them. It's just like how an admissions board looks for signs of a trustworthy student, we need proof that our AI is safe, fair, and accountable. And you'll notice what's right there at the very bottom, the foundation of it all: valid and reliable. Because hey, if it doesn't even work correctly, nothing else matters, right? But how do you actually build these things into a system? I mean, just wishing for it isn't going to cut it. That's where a structured approach, something like the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, comes into play. It gives developers a real, concrete set of steps to follow. So this framework organizes the whole process of risk management into 4 core functions that work as a continuous cycle. You've got govern, which is all about the culture and structure you put in place. Then you map the context, you measure the risks, and you manage the outcomes. See how it's a loop? It's designed to build smarter, safer systems by constantly forcing developers to think, check, and reevaluate what they're doing. So to make this whole framework thing a little less abstract, let's connect each of these 4 functions back to a catastrophic application failure. Because as it turns out, bad essays are the perfect guide to good AI governance. Okay, first up, the govern function. This is all about having accountable systems and an ethical culture. It's the absolute baseline of integrity. And what's the polar opposite of that? Well, faking your entire educational history. This student didn't just bend the truth. They operated in a system with zero governance. And it, unsurprisingly, led to an instant denial. Next, the MAP function. This is all about understanding context. Where is the system going to be used? Who is it going to affect? It's a lesson this applicant learned the hard way. They wrote a beautiful essay that was perfectly mapped for the completely wrong context. A simple copy-paste error showed a total, and I mean total, lack of situational awareness. Ouch. Then there's the measure function. It relies on data, metrics, evidence, facts, to track how a system is performing and what risks it might pose. And that makes it fundamentally incompatible with a worldview that just doesn't believe in data. You simply cannot measure risk if you reject the very tools of measurement itself. And finally, the manage function. This is all about acting on risks once you've identified them. It's not enough to just see a problem. You have to actually do something about it. That's exactly what this university did. They found out the students' behavior posed a serious reputational risk, and they managed it by rescinding the acceptance. They responded to the risk to protect their institution. So what do we actually learn when we put a government framework for artificial intelligence right next to a list of bad life choices made by a bunch of 17-year-olds? Well, a surprising amount, actually. So here's the big takeaway. The very same principles that lead to success or failure in our own lives are the ones we have to use to guide our most powerful technologies. Things like integrity, understanding your context, measuring your performance, and managing the consequences. These aren't just for college essays. They're absolutely essential for building a future with AI that we can actually trust. And that really leaves us with a final crucial question to think about. We all instinctively know that an applicant who cheats or sends their essay to the wrong school probably shouldn't be accepted. So what kind of higher standard must we hold for the systems that will one day make decisions about our health, our jobs, and our whole society? It's something to chew on as we move forward into a world that's being shaped more and more by these powerful tools.